Hello everyone, welcome to Delphicon 2023. This month we're celebrating 28 years of Delphi. Well, my name is Daniel and today I speak about how to create LibreOffice documents in Delphi. About this presentation, today we learn what is the component, what is the necessity, what is open source and why, the code pattern. I will show the use case, use the component, the example. At the end, I open Q&A section, okay? But who I am? Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm from Brazil. I was born in the states of Minas Gerais and I live in the states of São Paulo. I have degree in Information Technology Management from FATEC, studied a postgraduate degree in Software Engineer. I've been working as Delphi Developer for 7 years. I currently work at Aquasoft as a Delphi Developer. Well, let's start. What is the component? It's an open source software which uses the MIT license. Its focus is to manipulate the LibreOffice API, interacting directly behind the scene with the application. The component currently integrates with the Calc and Writer. Calc is a kind of Excel and Writer is a kind of the Microsoft Word. What is the open source? It is computer software with its source code made available and licensed, in which copywriter provides to the right to study, modify, and distribute. Of course, there are variations in permission according to the type of license chosen. License types. What are the licenses? 1. MIT license. Your name is because MIT College. Permit add, modify, merge, publish, distribute the original MIT license and freely sell copies of the software. This license is very easy, simple and straightforward, which is why it is a search and high adoption rate among software developers. 2. Apache License 2.0. The Apache Software License is a permissive open source software license scheme. It allows development users to use the software for any purpose, distribute, modify, and modify versions of the software under the terms of Apache License Product. 3. GNU General Public License, or GPL. The GNU General Public License is a series of most commonly used open source license. It is written by Richard Stallman in 1989. Any software application written based on any GPL component must be released as an open source product. It is mandatory for any GPL open source component to distribute the full source code of the software based on previous copyleft work upon release to the public. 4. Berkeley Software Distribution License, BSD. This license permits add, modify, merge, publish, distribute, but you retain a copy of the copyright notes, list of the condition and disclaimer. 5. Internet System Consortium License, ISC. This license is kind of MIT license, but in the other language. And users must include the original copyright notice and a copy of the license itself when copying or modifying license code. Well, these are the main licenses. But why open source? Contribute to the Delphi community and encourage open source code create. We don't have many open source codes within the Delphi community compared to the other language. I believe that encouraging open source code can further strengthen our community. Open source project example. Within community Delphi, we have Horse, Restator, ACBR or ACBR, as we call it in Brazil. A CBR is a more popular Brazilian component widely used for commercial automation. Outside the community, we have PostgreSQL, MariaDB, and Ubuntu, and others Linux, and among others projects. What is the necessity? The need for an open source component capable of generate spreadsheets as born out of a project that could not depend on a cost of Excel for the client nor on the cost of having a paid component to generate this application spreadsheet. I needed an open source component to transform JSON from API into a spreadsheet. That's how I start to study about LibreOffice API and start to create the component. Further forward in the use case section, I show this project. What is LibreOffice or OpenOffice? I believe everyone knows LibreOffice or OpenOffice, but it is a suite of free and open source Office applications available for Windows, Unix, Solaris, Linux, and macOS. Yes, we can use it on all platforms. Why use the LibreOffice? The cost is a free software. Community. Have a large community where you can clear your questions. Usability. Its usability is very similar to Excel. Compatibility. You can create formulas in the LibreOffice that will be able to pass to Excel extension without lose compatibility. Here's the link with the formulas compatible between Calc and Excel. Now, I start the technical part of this presentation. The pattern I used as the flow interface, but what is the flow interface? In software engineering, a flow interface is an object-oriented API whose design relies heavily on a method chain. Its purpose is to increase code readability by creating a domain-specific language. The term was coined in 2005 by Eric Evans and Martin Fowler. Derek Evans is also to create of DDD, a topic addressed by Gustavo Mena. Look this for as no begin and as 5 chaining methods. This is one line of code where you set value, set bold, set border, change font, set color. In this example, flow interface always returns self, the current state of the object. In example, change font. The method will change the font name and size and returns the current state of itself. Now I will show the code, but I won't go into code details, just show it. OpenOffice class. This is the main class. Here we have the common functions between Calc and Write classes, which inherit from it. Well, I will show the class. The OpenOffice Calc class responsible only for methods relevant to Calc. Here are the methods of this class. OpenOffice Writer, responsible only for methods relevant to Writer. The OpenOffice Printer. This class is responsible only for methods relevant to print. Install LibreOffice class. If the client does not have LibreOffice installed, this class will find the last version and suggest the installation to client. If he clicks yes, the download will be performed and installation will be requested. This is the structure of the component. About the use of the component, there is a demo where you can see the example available together on my GitHub. Here, the front end requests the spreadsheet to backend. The backend makes the API call, return a JSON. This JSON is populated in the dataset, and this dataset is transformed into one or more spreadsheets. These spreadsheets are compressed in .zip, and the .zip is transformed in base 16.4. Now we can see the spreadsheet being generated. We can see the cells being formatted and returned to the front end, which makes the download available, passing to the base 16.4 to .zip with all the spreadsheet. The component does not depend on the visual part to work with the spreadsheet, being able to completely disable the visual part and gain performance and work with threads. Demo Calc. I will be demonstrating the demo of the component. This demo is on my GitHub, just go there to get the code and compilable executable. See the example of how to use it. It's simple and easy to use. I will start demonstrating. A method called dataset where you pass your dataset and the component make a mirror of your grid, turning your dataset into a spreadsheet. The grid values, click on Export to Spreadsheet. He starts grid for you. It is possible to do the opposite, where you pass the spreadsheet and it transforms into a dataset. Now you have the component pointed to the spreadsheet. Now you can start working with values. Column value B2, I found the value Peter Park. I want to change the value that is in the column. I will put your secret identity, the Spider-Man. And add value, I will put in the bold, now underline, with the line breaks. I will add more text to show the line breaks without the line break. And add value, change font color, select white. Background color, I will choose green and add value. It is also possible to align. Center, right, lefty. The font type, I will put the LibreOffice default. And add value, the font size, 5 here. And add value to show the vertical alignment. Select top, select center, select bottom, add value, here the size for 12. I changed the font size to 10. Here we also have the option to strength for numeric, for implements the graphics. The value for the graph has to be numeric, because otherwise it will be understood as a string. I went to the value of C2, I will force it as numeric to C3, C4, add value, and C5. Add value. Here I will say I went from column B to column C. The idade or age column from line 0 to line 5, I can leave the other lines already mapped. For example, up to line 10. While I go include the values, the chart would be updated. I put the name, add graphic. We have the default, which is the bar graph. We have the pie chart, the vertical bar chart, and the line graph. I will present just one more here. And here we have the other graphic. It is possible to add a new tab too. It does not change the tab in the visual part, only in the source code. I put the name and add. I changed the tab. Tab only changed in the code and not in the visual part. Click on the get value. There is no more value filling. I will write test and add value. Here the added value. We have the formatting tool. And see, the program wrote the test in the correct tab without interference from the visual part. I'm going back here to tab 0. Let's get the value now. We get the value 28. This value is in the tab 0. We can to save. Load the document. No, I'm going to save it as XLSX. The component understands any extension of the spreadsheet, can be XLS or ODS or CSV. It is compatible with the Excel or with any other offices. Select path on the format. I will save. We have the events in the component. We have the before and after the get value, add, save, print. I have the options to the count columns and the rows. I save it. I select where I save it to see the file. I'm going to open the folder. The test planilha file is here. Everything started by the component must be terminated by the component because he stays with a pointer memory pointer for current spreadsheet. So if I close here at X, it will get lost at that pointer. That it must be closed in this way. Then I will close by the component. I close it. I don't have any spreadsheet open anymore. So I'm going to open the spreadsheet that I saved. Ready? We have printing options. Here the event of after printing. I will save it as a PDF on the desktop. I select the path, define the name as testplanilha.pdf and save it. I go to where I save it to see how the PDF turned out. Here is the generated PDF. The print settings can be configured by OpenOffice set printer class. Inside the component, there is a class to work with the printing options. Inside the component, in the demo code is with the example and how to use. There is a lot function already implemented in it and is always receive updates. All the document is inside the source code. Now let's go to the part or writer, the text files. Now I will be demonstrating LibreOffice Writer. It's the component that works with .docx and text documents in general. It's like Calc. Everything that starts with the component must be closed by the component because there is a pointer pointed to a document. We can add the text and we can change the text property. Here we have the name of the font. See component editing in LibreOffice Writer. I will select the font Times New Roman. Here the font size I change to 12. Here, the font color, change to red, gray, go back to black. We have the bold option. We have the option underline. Now, I am going to put together a text example. It's done by a routine inside the code available on demo. Here you can see the generated document. Here, I can move the cursor to the end of the document. Now I can continue editing the code. I add a new text to the generated document. You can save, print, load an already created document and start work in him. It is also possible to get the text value. The component it has some functions that are not yet available at the time of this demo, but that are already uploaded to GitHub. The LibreOffice Writer option is the latest implementation, and it is still under development and gaining new features. But it is now fully functional. This was the demonstration of how the component works. Here is the component GitHub, where you can contribute with the code or just download and use it. In this initial part, we have the code and the README right below, where you have all the instructions for installation, supported version of the file. If you install the component and do not have LibreOffice installed, the component will ask to installation of the latest version of the LibreOffice. As it is in the orientation, if you are going to use just reading and write the spreadsheet in a simple way, only the component is enough. If you are going to use styling and work with print and cell and font colors, use the extra units described. The week has the demo video in Portuguese, so I will update to English too. Here, in pull request, we have the component update. The most recent and important feature is the possibility of working with threads, and the doc visible property to the disable visualization of the components created, with interaction taking place with LibreOffice just by API. This increases the component's performance and enable the use of threads. To view the document with the options docVisible equals false, at the end of the spreadsheet manipulation, it must be closed using the close file options, and in the sequence, save file with the path where you want to save. I recommend use the option docVisible equals true only for development. This option is valid for the LibreOffice Writer as well. If you find a bug or want to suggest or include some improvement, you can use the Issue tab. Feel free to participate in the project and help. After all, it is open source. Someone from the Delphi community for the Delphi community. To report something, go to the Issue tab, click on New Issue, and choose a category. Is a bug or a feature? And get the template in Get Start, and fill in the fields, title, description, how to reproduce, if it's a bug. If you want to submit a solution, you can also write. And if possible, attach the file and click Submit. Good. Now I have work to do. Here follow my contact, my email, my LinkedIn, my GitHub, where you can find the component, and my Instagram, where you can follow components updates and other development issues. You can send me message there too. Well, we've reached the end. I want to thank Embarcadero for the opportunity to be here, give my first international lecture, Aquasoft for support me and make this moment in my career possible, and to all of you listeners who have been following me today, thank you very much and see you soon. Now let's go to the Q&A. As the picture says, enjoy now or use Google later. Just kidding. You can call me through any channel in the contact.
All right, great. Thank you, Daniel, for that session. I appreciated the use Google or use the source since it's all open source, right? All right, so joining me, I have Daniel Fernandes here to answer questions, and Dion is also here as well to help out. Very cool. I was really impressed with this. That I do a lot of work with spreadsheets, and there's a lot of power in Calc or Excel or whatever you're using, but there's oftentimes a lot of times where I have like the data is coming from somewhere else, right? And I'm always like copying and pasting and moving things around, and so I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, I got some ideas. Because there's so much you could do to automate putting the data into the spreadsheet and doing the charts and stuff like that from Delphi. So wow, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Even more with the configuration of the files, right? With the Daniel example, we can choose the font color, the font size. You can put out all the configured spreadsheets, so it's make our life very easy in this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I put the link in the chat for your GitHub so people can go out and take a look at this and give it a star. It's giving it a star on GitHub doesn't cost you anything, but it's a great way to just give somebody a thumbs up, a vote of approval, and help other people find it. So, it looks like Alexander is already giving you a star on GitHub.
Collecting stars.
Raphael says, congratulations, keep up the great work. You're very important in the Delphi community. Yeah, I would agree. This is great.
Thanks.
And then I appreciated Craig's comment. Open source is great. Non-copy left is greater. Okay, let's see. Other questions here. A lot of people just are like, wow, this is great. Excited for you. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions for Daniel, go ahead and put them in the question panel here, and I'll get them asked for you. Otherwise, like you said, you can use Google later or use the source code. Yeah, it's like everybody's just excited for you here. There's Dr. Kevin Bond. He wrote the new Delphi programming book that just came out, I guess it was last year. It says thanks. So awesome. Well, I for sure will be using this. I'm a fan of LibreOffice already, and like I said, I do a lot of work with spreadsheets and stuff as well. So I definitely, I will definitely be putting this to use because this is very useful stuff here. Okay, here's a question that came in. Have you tested it with large volume of records? What's the performance like?
Yes, I generate the 15 spreadsheet, the balance sheets com contabilidade.
Financial assets reports.
Yes, it's very a lot of information, and 2 days of work resume to 5 minutes.
Does the integration mainly control LibreOffice from Delphi, or can LibreOffice call back into Delphi? If someone does something in LibreOffice, can you get a notification in Delphi?
I use the LibreOffice API. LibreOffice have a Uno API, and my calls is Uno API.
But I think you cannot generate events by LibreOffice to call back Delphi, right?
So there's a question here if you're planning to support the Microsoft Office suite as well, or if you're gonna stick it with or stay with LibreOffice.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Do you wanna implement for Microsoft Excel as well?
Oh,
I think maybe
okay.
not, because the main idea of Daniel was create an open source project, and Microsoft open source, so
Yeah, have a
maybe
code.
he will stick with LibreOffice.
Yeah, it would be a completely different API as well. So yeah, makes sense.
Yes.
This is a good question. Is it possible to build a server service running like in an SAP DSL, or so it sounds like LibreOffice has to be installed, but can it be done without, like in a headless environment where the user is not interacting with it?
Yes, in the use case, this presentation, I use the LibreOffice in the server and have a API, call API call the LibreOffice, generate spreadsheet and return the spreadsheet for the front end. And
Okay.
yes, you running is up.
So this is an interesting question. Can you create user-defined functions in Delphi? So an Excel in your or a spreadsheet in your spreadsheet, you could have the formula calling into code that's in Delphi. I think we
Yes,
just said you can't go that way.
yes, have a function for I forgot the name for formula in LibreOffice.
You can put Delphi formula inside a spreadsheet, but you cannot call the spreadsheet from any data in Delphi, right? You have to put all the
Uh,
data in the spreadsheet and create the formula to put there, right, Daniel?
yes, yes,
Okay. All right. So it was pointed out that there are office automation components already in Delphi that use COM. That's true. I have not used those in a while, but it's good to see that there are these here for LibreOffice too. And so Patrick's just asking for clarification. So you could have LibreOffice on a server and use that from other computers on the network. You don't have to have it, or yeah, like you said, in the SAP DLL. Is it requiring GDI DLL, or does it have to be a full version of Windows Server?
I think you don't have be all the LibreOffice path installed, right, Daniel?
yes,
Can work
yes.
only with
Too good.
the DLLs, but the DLL must be on the server side, or the application path to work well, right? The use
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
Daniel implementation does not suppress using LibreOffice, right? It only call LibreOffice API. So LibreOffice must be present, even not installed. The DLL must be present, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Okay, I think that's it for the questions. Fabio was asking more about Microsoft Office. Just take a look at the other components. Would be a different API. But here's another question: Does it work on other platforms, or is it Windows specific?
By now,
Does
it
it?
only works in Windows Server, but maybe in the future, the new issues, right, Daniel, will be available for Linux too, but by now only for Windows.
Only for Windows. Yes.
And you have another Stargazer now, Samuel, as well as give you a star on GitHub. So we'll see where your stars are here shortly. You should have quite a few. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your presentation and for all the code that you put together here. This is looks a very useful tool, and happy to have you on international presentation here for the full
Th-
audience.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dim.